My 4-year-old niece asked, "Why does mommy hurt me? Why does mommy hurt me?" The words hit me like ice water as I was brushing 4-year-old Emma's hair before bed. My hands froze mid-stroke, the pink brush suspended in her golden curls. In the mirror, I could see her wide blue eyes staring up at me with an innocence that made my stomach clench. "What did you say, sweetheart?" I kept my voice gentle, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. Emma's lower lip trembled. Mommy gets really mad. She grabs my arms tight and shakes me. "It hurts, Aunt Sarah." I set the brush down with trembling fingers and turned to face my niece. This was supposed to be our fun Friday sleepover. We'd made pancakes for dinner, built a blanket fort in my living room, and painted our nails matching shades of purple. Now the Disney princess nightlight seemed to cast ominous shadows across her small face. "Can you show me where mommy hurts you?" I asked, crouching down to her level. Without hesitation, Emma pushed up the sleeves of her frozen pajamas. Even in the dim bedroom light, I could see the faint yellow-green bruises circling her upper arms like fingerprints. My sister Rachel's fingerprints. The breath left my lungs in a rush. I'd suspected something was wrong for weeks now. Emma had been staying over more frequently, Rachel claiming she needed me time or had important work meetings. During these visits, my usually chatty niece had grown quiet and clingy. She'd wake up crying from nightmares she couldn't or wouldn't explain. Last weekend, she'd flinched when I'd reached out to wipe chocolate from her chin. "Does mommy hurt you a lot?" I whispered, fighting to keep the rage from my voice. Emma nodded solemnly. "She says I'm bad. That I make too much noise. Sometimes she puts me in the closet when I cry." The closet. Jesus Christ. My hands were shaking now as I gently rolled Emma's sleeves back down. "You're not bad, Emma. You're perfect. You know that, right?" She smiled then, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in weeks. "I like staying with you, Aunt Sarah. You don't yell." I pulled her into the gentlest hug, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent while my mind raced. Rachel had always been cruel, even as kids. She'd had a vicious streak that our parents either ignored or excused as ambition. When we were teenagers, she destroyed my MIT scholarship application the night before the deadline because she was jealous I'd gotten early acceptance while she was still waiting to hear back from state schools. She'd smiled sweetly the next morning while I frantically called the admissions office, explaining that my application had mysteriously vanished from the kitchen table. But this was different. This wasn't sibling rivalry or jealousy. This was a defenseless child. "Emma, can you do something very important for me?" I asked, pulling back to look at her. "If mommy hurts you again, I want you to tell me right away. Can you do that?" She nodded eagerly. "Will you protect me?" The trust in her voice nearly broke me. "Yes, baby. I promise I'll protect you." As I tucked Emma into my guest bed that night, she was already breathing deeply, finally peaceful. But I sat in my kitchen until 3 a.m., staring at my phone. Child Protective Services. I'd never thought I'd be Googling those words about my own family. Rachel had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I made Emma heart-shaped pancakes while she colored at my kitchen table, humming softly to herself. She seemed like a different child, relaxed, giggly, the way a 4-year-old should be. When she accidentally knocked over her orange juice, she immediately cowered, arms flying up to protect her face. I'm sorry. It was an accident," she whimpered. "Hey, it's okay," I said quickly, grabbing paper towels. "Accidents happen. No big deal." She peeked at me through her fingers, surprised. "You're not mad?" "Of course not, sweetheart. It's just juice." As she helped me clean up, chattering about the funny face her pancake was making, I made mental notes. Document everything. The flinching. The immediate fear over minor accidents. The way she apologized frantically for normal kid behavior. At 10:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Hope Emma wasn't too much trouble. Picking her up at 2. I stared at the message, my coffee growing cold. 3.5 hours. I needed to use this time wisely. While Emma watched Moana in my living room, I quietly called the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families from my bedroom. My hands trembled as I dialed. "DCF hotline, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi, I need to report suspected child abuse." The words felt foreign in my mouth. "I can help you with that. Can you give me your name and relationship to the child?" "Sarah Mitchell. It's my niece, Emma Rodriguez. She's 4 years old." I rattled off Rachel's address, my voice steadier than I felt. Jennifer's questions were thorough and professional. "Physical evidence?" "Yes, bruises on her arms that look like grip marks." "Behavioral changes?" "Increased fearfulness, nightmares, flinching at sudden movements." "Specific incidents?" "Being locked in closets, shaken hard enough to leave bruises." "We'll need to conduct an investigation," Jennifer explained. "This will likely involve interviewing the child, the parent, and potentially removing the child from the home if we determine she's in immediate danger." "What happens to my sister?" "If abuse is substantiated, it could result in criminal charges, loss of custody, and mandatory parenting classes at minimum." After I hung up, I sat on my bed for 5 minutes, processing what I'd just set in motion. Rachel was about to have her world turned upside down. Part of me, the part that still remembered her destroying my MIT application with that satisfied smirk, felt a dark satisfaction. But mostly, I just felt sick. I took photos of Emma's bruises with my phone, zooming in to capture the distinct finger-shaped marks. She didn't question it when I said I wanted pictures of her pretty purple nail polish, not realizing I was documenting evidence that could send her mother to prison. At 1:45 p.m., I heard Rachel's BMW pull into my driveway. Through the window, I watched my sister emerge looking immaculate as always, designer yoga clothes, perfectly blown-out blonde hair, expensive sunglasses. To anyone watching, she looked like the successful marketing executive and devoted single mother she pretended to be. Emma's entire demeanor shifted the moment she heard the car door slam. Her shoulders hunched, and she switched off the TV without being asked. "Mommy's here," she whispered, like she was announcing the arrival of a monster. I knelt down and hugged her tightly. "Remember what we talked about, okay? You can always tell me anything." Rachel's knock echoed through the house, sharp, impatient. I opened the door to her brilliant smile. There's my baby girl, she cooed, but I noticed Emma didn't run to her like most kids would. Within 48 hours, Rachel would know exactly what I'd done. I just prayed it would be enough time for DCF to act. Rachel swept into my house like she owned it, her designer heels clicking against my hardwood floors. Sarah, you're a lifesaver as always. The Henderson client meeting ran so much longer than expected. She barely glanced at Emma, who was gathering her stuffed elephant with mechanical precision. Of course, I managed, watching my niece's face carefully. Emma was perfect, as usual. I'm sure she was. Rachel's voice carried that familiar edge of impatience. Emma, did you remember to say thank you to Aunt Sarah? Thank you, Aunt Sarah, Emma recited quietly, her small hand clutching mine for just a moment longer than necessary. What do we say about using our big girl voice? Rachel's tone sharpened. Emma's shoulders tensed. Thank you, Aunt Sarah, she repeated, louder this time. I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a smile. She was absolutely wonderful. We had such a fun time, didn't we, Em? For the briefest moment, Emma's face lit up. We made pancakes that looked like hearts and painted our nails in. That's enough chatter, Emma. Get your bag. Rachel's interruption was swift and cold. My niece's mouth snapped shut mid-sentence, and she hurried toward the guest room. She seems tired, I ventured, testing the waters. Rachel waved dismissively. She's been having these ridiculous nightmares lately. Probably watching too much TV. She examined her manicured nails with studied indifference. I've had to be firmer with her bedtime routine. Kids need structure, you know? Our mother was far too soft with us. The casual way she said it made my skin crawl. Like terrorizing a 4-year-old was just good parenting. Emma returned with her pink overnight bag, moving carefully around her mother like she was navigating a minefield. Rachel didn't help her with the bag or offer any affection, no hug, no kiss, barely even eye contact. Say goodbye, Emma. We need to get home. I knelt down for what I hoped wouldn't be the last time in a while. I had the best time with you, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about, okay? Emma nodded solemnly and whispered, can I come back soon? Anytime, I promised, my throat tight. As they walked toward the door, Rachel paused. Oh, I meant to ask, Mom called yesterday. She wants to do Sunday dinner next week. She tilted her head, studying my face. She mentioned you seemed distant during Emma's birthday party last month. Everything okay? The question felt loaded, dangerous. Had I been that obvious? Just work stress. You know how it is. Rachel's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, try to relax. Family is everything, right? After they left, I stood at my window watching the BMW disappear down Oak Street. My phone felt heavy in my pocket. Jennifer from DCF had said they'd follow up within 72 hours, but what if that wasn't fast enough? At 8:30 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Aunt Sarah? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. My heart stopped. Emma? Honey, where are you? In the bathroom. Mommy's watching TV. Her words came in a rush. She was really mad about my bag. I forgot to zip it up and my clothes fell out in the car. What happened? I was already grabbing my keys. She grabbed my arms again. Harder this time. And she said. Emma's voice broke. She said if I keep being clumsy, she'll send me away where no one will want to visit me. The threat hit me like a physical blow. Rachel was escalating, and I potentially triggered it by asking too many questions. Emma, listen to me very carefully. I'm going to. The line went dead. I called back immediately. Straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking as I dialed again. And again. Nothing. Every instinct screamed at me to drive over there, but I forced myself to think rationally. If I showed up at Rachel's door at 8:45 p.m. demanding to see Emma, she'd know something was wrong. She was already suspicious after my questions this afternoon. I needed to be smarter than that. Instead, I called the DCF emergency hotline. This is regarding case number 2024-0318MD, I said, reading from the paper Jennifer had given me that morning. The child called me 20 minutes ago saying the abuse escalated tonight. Then the line went dead. Hold please. The hold music felt like torture. Through my kitchen window, I could see Mrs. Peterson walking her ancient golden retriever under the streetlights. Normal Saturday evening life continuing while Emma was trapped 12 miles away with a monster who shared her DNA. Ms. Mitchell? This is David Chin, emergency case supervisor. We're going to need you to call the Westbrook Police Department and request a wellness check. Give them case number 2024-0318MD and explain this is an active DCF investigation. I was dialing before he finished talking. Westbrook PD, Officer Martinez speaking. I need to request a wellness check for a 4-year-old girl. There's an active DCF case. My voice cracked as I rattled off the details again. We can have a unit there within 30 minutes. Are you the reporting party on the DCF case? Yes. I'm her aunt. She called me scared and the line went dead. We'll call you back after we've made contact. What's your relationship with the child's mother? I hesitated. How do you explain 28 years of psychological warfare in a sentence? Complicated. She doesn't know I filed the DCF report yet. At 9:47 p.m., Officer Martinez called back. Ms. Mitchell? We spoke with Rachel Rodriguez and conducted a visual check on Emma Rodriguez. The child appeared unharmed and was getting ready for bed. Ms. Rodriguez explained that Emma had been playing with her phone earlier and may have accidentally called you. Did you see any marks on Emma's arms? The child was wearing long-sleeve pajamas. She seemed calm and responded appropriately when we spoke with her. Without a court order, we can't force a more detailed examination. After hanging up, I paced my kitchen like a caged animal. Rachel was too smart to leave visible injuries right after a police visit. She probably coached Emma on exactly what to say. And now she definitely knew something was happening. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number at 10:15 p.m. Everything okay? Heard police stopped by tonight. Hope there wasn't any trouble. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Rachel. She'd gotten a new number, probably a burner phone. The innocent tone made my skin crawl, but the message was clear. She knew the police visit wasn't random. I screenshot the text before responding. Police? What happened? Oh, probably nothing. Just thought I'd check since Emma mentioned calling you earlier. Kids and phones, right? Face with rolling eyes anyway, sleeping like an angel now. The casual use of Emma's phone call confirmed my worst fears. Rachel had been monitoring the situation. She knew exactly what Emma had told me. At 11:30 p.m., I made a decision that would either save Emma or destroy everything. I drove to Rachel's neighborhood and parked 3 blocks away on Maple Street, close enough to see her house but hidden behind the Hendersons' enormous oak tree. Rachel's BMW sat in the driveway. The porch light was on, but most of the house was dark except for a faint glow from what I knew was the living room window. I'd been to family gatherings here dozens of times, back when I still believed Rachel was just sharp-tongued rather than dangerous. I waited until 1:20 a.m. before I saw what I was hoping for. Rachel's silhouette passed by the living room window, then disappeared. 5 minutes later, her bedroom light went on, then off. Now came the part that could get me arrested for trespassing. But if Emma called for help again and couldn't reach me, I needed to be close enough to act. I settled in for the longest night of my life, my phone charged and ready, eyes fixed on that dark house where my niece was sleeping alone with her abuser. At 3:47 a.m., I jerked awake to the sound of a door slamming. I dozed off in my car despite every intention to stay alert, and now my neck ached from sleeping against the window. Rachel's porch light illuminated her front yard as she dragged a large black trash bag to the curb, moving with sharp, agitated movements even in her silk robe. Sunday garbage pickup wasn't until Tuesday. My phone showed 17 missed calls from the same unknown number, the burner phone. As I watched, it lit up again. What the hell do you think you're doing? Rachel's voice was pure venom, no longer bothering with fake sweetness. I don't know what you mean. I kept my voice steady while frantically starting my car. I can see your pathetic Honda from my bedroom window, Sarah. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you stalking my house like some deranged psychopath? My blood turned to ice. How long had she known I was there? I was just Dash. Save it. I know exactly what you've been doing. Jennifer from DCF called me yesterday afternoon. Apparently my loving sister thinks I'm some kind of monster. Her laugh was sharp and brittle. Ring any bells? I pulled away from the curb, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Rachel, Emma told me Dash. Emma is 4 years old. She watches too much TV and has an overactive imagination. But you wouldn't know that because you don't have children. You've never had the responsibility of shaping a young mind. Shaping? The word exploded out of me. Is that what you call leaving bruises shaped like fingerprints on her arms? Silence stretched between us for 10 long seconds. When Rachel spoke again, her voice was dangerously quiet. You have no idea what you've just done to this family. Mom and Dad are going to be devastated when they find out their perfect younger daughter tried to destroy their granddaughter's life with false accusations. False accusations? I have photos, Rachel. Of what? A clumsy 4-year-old who bruises easily? Good luck explaining that to a judge. Her confidence was chilling. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to call DCF first thing Monday morning and tell them you made a mistake. That you misunderstood some innocent injuries from normal childhood accidents. I'm not doing that. Yes, you are. Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure everyone knows about your little obsession with my daughter. The late night calls, the inappropriate questions, the way you've been trying to turn her against me. Who do you think people will believe? The devoted single mother, or the lonely spinster aunt who's clearly having some kind of psychological breakdown? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Rachel had always been a master manipulator, but this was next-level calculated cruelty. And Sarah? Her voice turned sickeningly sweet. If you ever park outside my house again, I'm calling the police to report a stalker. How do you think that will look to DCF? The unstable woman who filed a false report now caught lurking around a child's home in the middle of the night. She hung up, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts and the growing realization that I'd severely underestimated my sister's ability to weaponize the system against me. By the time I got home at 4:30 a.m., an email was already waiting in my inbox. The sender was Rachel's personal email, the one she used for family communications. The subject line read, concerned about Sarah's recent behavior. She'd sent it to my parents, my Uncle Jim, and my cousin Lisa. A group email expressing worry about my erratic behavior lately and asking if anyone else had noticed I seemed overly fixated on Emma. She mentioned my strange questions during recent visits and suggested I might be struggling with some personal issues that were affecting my judgment. Rachel was systematically destroying my credibility before the DCF investigation could even begin. By Monday morning at 8:15 a.m., the family damage was already spreading like wildfire. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since 6 a.m. with concerned calls from relatives who'd received Rachel's poison email. Mom called first, her voice tight with worry. Sarah, honey, Rachel sent us this email about you acting strange lately. She's concerned you might be having some kind of episode. Mom, I need to tell you something about Rachel and Emma. Oh, sweetheart, are you obsessing over that little girl again? You know how much you've always wanted children of your own. Sometimes when we can't have what we want, we can fixate in unhealthy ways. The conversation spiraled from there. Rachel had planted the perfect seeds, my single status at 28, my well-documented love for Emma, my recent distant behavior. To everyone else, it painted a picture of a woman having a breakdown, not an aunt trying to protect her niece. Uncle Jim's voicemail was even worse. Sarah, if you're struggling with mental health issues, we're here for you. But Rachel's right to be protective of Emma. Maybe you should talk to someone professional about these thoughts you're having about your sister. Professional help for my thoughts about Rachel abusing Emma. The gaslighting was so complete, so expertly crafted, that even I started questioning my own perceptions for a terrifying moment. At 9:30 a.m., I called DCF to check on the investigation's progress. Ms. Mitchell, I need to inform you that we've received some additional information about your case. Jennifer's voice was carefully neutral. Rachel Rodriguez contacted us this morning with concerns about your mental state and your relationship with the child. My stomach dropped. What kind of concerns? She's provided documentation of what she calls obsessive behavior, emails, text messages, and testimony from family members about your recent fixation on her daughter. She's also requesting a psychological evaluation for you before we proceed with the investigation. Jennifer, she's manipulating the system. This is exactly what abusers do, they discredit the people trying to expose them. I understand your frustration, but we have to investigate all claims thoroughly. We'll still be interviewing Emma Rodriguez this Wednesday at 2 p.m., but there may be additional steps required. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, feeling like the walls were closing in. Rachel had turned my family against me and was now working to undermine the DCF case. But I still had one advantage she didn't know about, Emma's phone call Saturday night. I drove to my lawyer's office at noon. Patricia Hernandez had handled my house purchase 2 years ago, but I hoped she could at least point me in the right direction for family law. This is complicated, Sarah, Patricia said after I'd explained everything. Your sister is playing a sophisticated game. She's creating reasonable doubt about your credibility while positioning herself as the protective mother being falsely accused by an unstable relative. But I have evidence. Photos of the bruises, Emma's own words. Photos that could be explained away as normal childhood injuries, and statements from a 4-year-old whose testimony can be easily challenged. Patricia leaned back in her chair. However, that phone call Saturday night could be significant. The fact that she called you during an active incident suggests a pattern of reaching out when she's in distress. What do I do? DCF is already wavering because of Rachel's counter-accusations. Document everything obsessively. Every interaction, every phone call, every email Rachel sends. Keep a detailed journal with timestamps. And Sarah? Patricia's expression grew serious. Be prepared for this to get much worse before it gets better. Your sister sounds like someone who doesn't lose gracefully. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel's regular number. Hope you're feeling better today. Mom mentioned you sounded upset when she called. Maybe we should all have dinner this week and talk things through? Family is so important during difficult times. Red heart. The fake concern was nauseating, but the underlying message was clear. She was tightening the noose, bringing in Mom and Dad to witness my instability firsthand. By Thursday, she'd probably have them convinced I needed immediate psychiatric intervention. I screenshotted the message and added it to my growing evidence folder. 2 could play the documentation game, and I was about to become the most thorough record keeper DCF had ever seen. Wednesday at 2 p.m. couldn't come fast enough. Emma's interview with DCF would either vindicate everything I'd reported, or Rachel's coaching would ensure my niece stayed trapped in that house of horrors while I was painted as the real threat. The stakes had never been higher, and Rachel was winning. Wednesday morning arrived with devastating news. At 7:43 a.m., Jennifer from DCF called to inform me that Emma's interview had been postponed indefinitely. What do you mean postponed? I gripped my coffee mug so tightly I thought it might shatter. Rachel Rodriguez has filed for an emergency restraining order against you, citing stalking and harassment. Until that's resolved in court, we can't proceed with interviewing the child while there are questions about the reporting party's credibility. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Rachel had found the perfect legal loophole to stop the investigation cold. Jennifer, this is exactly what I warned you about. She's manipulating the system to protect herself. Ms. Mitchell, I understand your frustration, but we have to follow proper protocols. The restraining order hearing is scheduled for Friday at 9 a.m. in Westbrook Family Court. Judge Patricia Molina presiding. After hanging up, I called Patricia Hernandez immediately. Her secretary squeezed me in for an emergency consultation at 11 a.m., but I already knew this was bad. Really bad. She's brilliant, I'll give her that, Patricia said, reviewing the restraining order paperwork I'd been served an hour earlier. Look at this documentation, screenshots of 17 missed calls from Saturday night, photos of your car parked on Maple Street, testimony from your own mother about your concerning fixation on Emma. The evidence looked damning when presented Rachel's way. My desperate attempts to protect Emma had been twisted into the behavior of an obsessive stalker. There's more, Patricia continued, flipping through pages. She's included medical records showing Emma was treated for anxiety at Westbrook Pediatric Associates last month. The doctor's notes mentioned family stress as a potential trigger. Family stress from being abused by her mother. But that's not how it reads here. Dr. Martinez's notes specifically reference increased tension during visits with extended family and behavioral regression following overnight stays away from primary caregiver. Patricia looked up grimly. Sarah, she's documented a paper trail that makes you look like the source of Emma's trauma, not her salvation. My hands were shaking as I processed the full scope of Rachel's manipulation. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Every sleepover, every instance of Emma's fear and behavioral changes, had been carefully documented and reframed to paint me as the problem. What are my chances Friday? Honestly? Not great. You'll need character witnesses, documentation of your own stability, and somehow we need to shift the focus back to Emma's welfare. Patricia paused. There is one thing working in our favor. Emergency restraining orders are meant to protect people from immediate physical danger. Stalking your house once doesn't quite meet that threshold, especially since no threats were made. At 2:47 p.m., my phone rang. Emma's name appeared on the caller ID, but when I answered, it was Rachel's voice. Hello, Sarah. I'm using Emma's tablet to call you because I want my daughter to hear this conversation. Ice flooded my veins. Rachel, don't involve Emma in this. Oh, but she's already involved, isn't she? Emma, sweetheart, can you tell Aunt Sarah what you told Mommy about feeling scared during your sleepovers? I could hear Emma's small voice in the background, obviously coached. I don't like when Aunt Sarah asks me lots of questions about you, Mommy. It makes me feel worried. And what else, baby? She took pictures of my arms and said it was our secret. Secrets make me uncomfortable. Rachel's voice returned, dripping with false sympathy. You see, Sarah? You've been traumatizing my daughter with your paranoid delusions. Emma told me how you convinced her that normal childhood bumps and bruises were somehow my fault. Rachel, you're coaching her. This is emotional abuse in real time. No, this is a mother protecting her child from a clearly unstable relative who's been conducting some kind of twisted investigation. Emma, can you tell Aunt Sarah how you feel about seeing her again? I think I want to stay home with Mommy for a while. The defeat in Emma's tiny voice broke my heart. Rachel had systematically destroyed our bond, turning my attempts to protect Emma into evidence of my own instability. See you in court Friday, Sarah. I really hope you get the help you need. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in complete devastation. Rachel hadn't just outmaneuvered me legally, she'd stolen Emma's trust and turned my own niece into a weapon against me. Friday's hearing would determine whether I could continue fighting for Emma, or if Rachel's perfect manipulation would leave her trapped forever. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood as I sat in the hallway outside Judge Molina's courtroom at 8:45 a.m. Patricia had coached me extensively on what to expect, but nothing could have prepared me for seeing Rachel walk through those courthouse doors looking like the picture of maternal concern. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a conservative navy dress, minimal makeup, and her hair pulled back in a simple bun. She looked like every judge's ideal of a responsible single mother. Behind her walked our parents, Dad's arm protectively around Mom's shoulders, both of them shooting me disappointed glances that cut deeper than any knife. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Molina. Judge Molina was a stern-looking woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through people. She reviewed the case file for several long minutes before speaking. This is a hearing for emergency restraining order petition filed by Rachel Rodriguez against Sarah Mitchell. Ms. Rodriguez, present your case. Rachel's attorney, a polished man in an expensive suit, laid out their evidence methodically. The 17 missed calls. Photos of my Honda parked 3 blocks from Rachel's house at 1:20 a.m. Screenshots of text messages where I'd asked concerning questions about Emma's well-being. Medical records showing Emma's increased anxiety correlating with our visits. Your Honor, Rachel said when called to testify, her voice trembling with practiced emotion, I never wanted it to come to this. Sarah is my sister, and I love her. But her behavior toward my daughter has become increasingly obsessive and frightening. She described finding me lurking outside her home, claimed I'd been interrogating Emma about normal childhood injuries, and painted a picture of a woman spiraling into dangerous delusion. Emma has started having nightmares specifically about disappointing Aunt Sarah. She's afraid to play normally because she thinks every scrape or bruise will somehow get her in trouble. Rachel dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Last weekend, she asked me if I was going to jail because Aunt Sarah keeps asking her about bad things Mommy does. Judge Molina's expression grew increasingly concerned as Rachel spun her web of lies. When it was my turn to respond, Patricia did her best with the limited ammunition we had. Your Honor, my client was responding to concerning statements made by a 4-year-old child about physical abuse. The bruising patterns she documented were consistent with grip marks from an adult hand. Her presence near the Rodriguez home was in response to a distress call from the child herself. But without Emma's testimony, now impossible due to Rachel's coaching, we were fighting shadows. Judge Molina asked pointed questions about my mental state, my single status, and whether I'd been projecting maternal instincts onto my niece. The hearing took a devastating turn when Rachel's attorney called our mother to testify. Mrs. Mitchell, have you noticed any concerning changes in Sarah's behavior recently? Mom looked directly at me with such sadness in her eyes. Sarah has always been protective of Emma, but lately, she's been asking strange questions at family gatherings. Wanting to know if we've noticed Emma acting differently, if Rachel seems stressed. She's been distant, preoccupied. At Emma's birthday party last month, I found her in the bathroom examining Emma's arms for no apparent reason. Did this behavior concern you? Yes. Sarah's never been married, never had children of her own. I worried she might be over-attaching to Emma in an unhealthy way. The betrayal of my own mother testifying against me was almost unbearable. Rachel had orchestrated this perfectly, turning my family into character witnesses for her version of events. Judge Molina deliberated for 20 minutes before returning with her decision. While I don't find evidence of immediate physical danger, I am concerned about the pattern of behavior described here. The emergency restraining order is granted for 30 days, during which Ms. Mitchell is prohibited from contacting Emma Rodriguez directly or indirectly, coming within 500 feet of the Rodriguez residence, or attempting to communicate through third parties. The gavel fell like a death sentence. Rachel had won completely, and Emma was trapped. The restraining order felt like a death sentence, but Rachel wasn't finished with me yet. As we filed out of the courthouse, she made sure to hug Mom and Dad extra tightly, playing the role of the relieved victim who'd narrowly escaped her unstable sister's obsession. Thank you both for supporting me through this, she said loud enough for me to hear. I know how hard this must be, having to choose between your daughters. Dad patted her shoulder awkwardly. We just want what's best for Emma. Mom wouldn't even look at me as they walked toward the parking garage together, a united family minus the black sheep who'd tried to destroy their perfect granddaughter's life with false accusations. I sat in my Honda for 20 minutes after everyone left, staring at the courthouse steps where my last hope had died. Patricia knocked on my passenger window, jolting me back to reality. Sarah, I know this feels hopeless, but 30 days isn't forever. We can appeal, gather more evidence, maybe find other witnesses who've seen concerning behavior from Rachel. What witnesses? She spent years building this perfect mother facade. Everyone thinks I'm the problem now. Not everyone. DCF still has an open case file. The restraining order doesn't close their investigation entirely, it just complicates it. That afternoon, I called Jennifer at DCF anyway, hoping for some sliver of hope. What I got instead was another crushing blow. Ms. Mitchell, I have to inform you that Rachel Rodriguez has enrolled Emma in private counseling with Dr. Elizabeth Warren at Westbrook Family Services. Dr. Warren specializes in helping children process trauma from inappropriate adult relationships. The implication hung in the air like poison. Rachel was now having Emma treated for trauma allegedly caused by me, creating even more professional documentation of my supposed harmful influence. Jennifer, please tell me you can see what's happening here. She's manipulating every system designed to protect children. I understand your frustration, but Dr. Warren is a mandated reporter. If Emma discloses any concerning information during therapy, about anyone, we'll be notified immediately. It was something, at least. If Emma felt safe enough with Dr. Warren to tell the truth about her mother's abuse, maybe this nightmare could still be stopped. But the cynic in me wondered if Rachel had carefully chosen a therapist she could manipulate too. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number at 11:47 p.m. Aunt Sarah? It's Emma. I'm using Mommy's old phone she keeps in the kitchen drawer. My heart stopped. Technically, any communication violated the restraining order, but I couldn't ignore a scared child reaching out for help. Emma? Are you okay, sweetheart? I miss you. Mommy says you're sick and that's why you can't visit anymore. Are you going to get better? The manipulation was breathtaking. Rachel had convinced Emma that I was ill rather than legally barred from contact. I'm fine, baby. How are you? Are you safe? Mommy's been really nice since we went to the big building with all the people in suits. She bought me new toys and we had ice cream for breakfast yesterday. A pause. But she keeps asking me questions about you. The same questions over and over. What kind of questions? She wants to know if you ever touched me in ways that made me uncomfortable. And if you ever said bad things about her. The lady with the short hair asked me the same things today. Dr. Warren. Rachel was now coaching Emma to describe our relationship as inappropriate while simultaneously having her treated for the trauma I'd supposedly caused. It was psychological warfare at its most sophisticated. Emma, listen to me carefully. You never have to lie to make anyone happy, okay? Not even Mommy. I know. That's what you taught me. But Aunt Sarah? Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I think Mommy knows I'm talking to you right now. I can hear her footsteps in the hallway. The line went dead, and my blood turned to ice. At 2:17 a.m., my phone exploded with activity. First came a text from Rachel's main number, emergency room. Emma fell down the stairs. Thought you should know despite everything. Then another, 3 minutes later, she's asking for you. I'm putting our differences aside for her sake. Can you come to Westbrook General? Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but the possibility that Emma was genuinely hurt overrode my caution. I threw on clothes and drove to the hospital, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios. Had Rachel discovered Emma using the phone? Was this retaliation for our midnight conversation? The ER waiting room was nearly empty at this hour. I found Rachel pacing near the vending machines, still in her silk pajamas with a coat thrown over them. Her hair was disheveled, makeup smeared, the first time I'd ever seen her look genuinely distressed. Sarah, thank God you came. She rushed toward me, and for a split second, I almost forgot she was the enemy. She fell down the stairs around midnight. Possible concussion, they're doing CT scans. What happened exactly? She said she was going to get water from the kitchen. I heard this terrible crash. Rachel's voice broke convincingly. When I found her, she was unconscious at the bottom of the stairs. There was so much blood from where she hit her head on the banister. A nurse approached us with a clipboard. Family of Emma Rodriguez? Dr. Morrison wants to speak with you both. We followed her through sterile corridors to a small consultation room. Dr. Morrison was a tired-looking man in his 40s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Emma's going to be fine, he said immediately, and I nearly collapsed with relief. Mild concussion, 8 stitches on her forehead, but no fractures or internal bleeding. She's been asking for both of you. Can we see her? Rachel asked. Dr. Morrison hesitated. Actually, I need to discuss something with you first. During our examination, we noticed some older bruising on Emma's upper arms. Hospital protocol requires we document any unexplained injuries in children. Rachel's mask slipped for just a millisecond, a flash of panic before she recovered. Oh, those. She's been so clumsy lately. Last week she fell off her bike, and before that she trapped her arm in her bedroom door. The pediatrician said some children just bruise easily. I see. Dr. Morrison made notes on his chart. And the fall tonight, did anyone witness it? No, I was in my room. Emma's been having trouble sleeping lately, so midnight wandering isn't unusual. Rachel's explanation was smooth, practiced. Doctor, is there something specific you're concerned about? The question hung heavy in the air. I wanted to scream that yes, there was something to be concerned about, that the bruises weren't from clumsiness but from Rachel's own hands. But one word from me would violate the restraining order and land me in jail. We're just being thorough, Dr. Morrison said finally. Emma can go home in the morning, but she'll need to be monitored closely for the next 48 hours. Any vomiting, confusion, or excessive sleepiness, bring her back immediately. As we walked toward Emma's room, Rachel grabbed my arm. I know things have been difficult between us, but Emma needs stability right now. Whatever you think happened, whatever you reported to DCF, can we put that aside for her sake? The request sounded reasonable, even touching. But I caught something in her eyes that made my stomach turn. This wasn't an olive branch. This was Rachel setting up her endgame, and I was walking straight into it. Emma lay in the hospital bed looking impossibly small, a white bandage covering half her forehead. When she saw me, her face lit up despite her obvious pain. Aunt Sarah. Mommy said you were too sick to visit, but you came anyway. Rachel was watching my every move, her phone positioned to record everything. Whatever I said or did next would either save Emma or destroy us both. The moment I stepped into Emma's hospital room, I knew I was walking into Rachel's carefully laid trap. Her phone was positioned perfectly to capture everything, and the way she'd coached Emma about my supposed illness meant any deviation from that narrative would look suspicious. Hi, sweetheart, I said softly, keeping my distance from the bed. Mommy told me you had a scary fall. Emma nodded, wincing slightly. I was getting water and everything went dark. When I woke up, there were people with flashlights looking in my eyes. She paused, studying my face with those perceptive blue eyes that had always seen too much. Aunt Sarah, you don't look sick. Rachel stepped closer, her voice honey-sweet. Remember what we talked about, Emma? Sometimes people can look fine on the outside but still need help on the inside. The manipulation was happening in real time, right in front of me, and I was powerless to stop it. Every word Emma said was being twisted, every interaction between us weaponized for Rachel's eventual custody battle narrative. Are you taking medicine to feel better? Emma asked innocently. Before I could answer, Dr. Morrison returned with a social worker, a thin woman with graying hair and tired eyes who introduced herself as Miss Patterson from the hospital's Family Services Department. I apologize for the interruption, but I need to ask a few questions about Emma's home environment, she said, pulling out a tablet. It's standard protocol for pediatric head injuries. Rachel immediately shifted into perfect mother mode. Of course. Anything to help Emma. Ms. Patterson's questions started routine, household safety measures, previous injuries, family stress levels. But then she asked Emma directly, Sweetie, do you feel safe at home? Yes, Emma said without hesitation. Then, after a glance at Rachel, except I'm scared Aunt Sarah might be too sick to visit me anymore. Why does that scare you? Emma's lower lip trembled. She used to ask me lots of questions about bumps and bruises, and she took pictures of my arms. Mommy says Aunt Sarah was worried about things that weren't really problems, but what if she was right and something bad happens to me? The words hit me like physical blows. Rachel had coached Emma so thoroughly that my niece was now describing my protection efforts as a source of anxiety while simultaneously expressing fear that I might have been right to be concerned. It was psychological manipulation at a master's level. Ms. Patterson made careful notes. Emma, has anyone ever hurt you on purpose? No, Emma said firmly. Mommy takes good care of me. But sometimes I have bad dreams about disappointing people. Rachel jumped in smoothly. The pediatrician thinks the nightmares started when family members began questioning normal childhood injuries. Emma's been in therapy to help process the confusion. At 3:42 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, police station. Now. Come alone. I glanced at Rachel, who was focused entirely on Emma's conversation with Ms. Patterson, but something about the timing felt wrong. As if summoned by the message, Officer Martinez from the night of the wellness check appeared in the doorway. Ms. Mitchell? I need to speak with you in the hallway. My stomach plummeted. This was it, Rachel's endgame was unfolding exactly as she'd planned. We received a report that you violated the restraining order by initiating contact with Emma Rodriguez tonight, Officer Martinez said quietly. Ms. Rodriguez has phone records showing communication from your number at 11:47 p.m. The midnight conversation. Rachel had set me up perfectly, using Emma's own desperate reach for help as evidence of my violation. In trying to protect my niece, I'd handed Rachel the ammunition she needed to destroy me completely. Officer Martinez, I can explain, I started, but he held up a hand. Ma'am, I need to inform you that you're under arrest for violation of a court-ordered restraining order. You have the right to remain silent. The Miranda rights echoed in the sterile hospital hallway as my world collapsed. Through Emma's doorway, I could see Rachel's face, not the mask of concern she'd worn for the past hour, but a look of cold satisfaction. She'd orchestrated this perfectly, using Emma's genuine distress call as the trap that would eliminate me from the equation entirely. Wait, I said desperately as Officer Martinez reached for his handcuffs. Check the phone records more carefully. I didn't initiate that contact, Emma called me from her mother's old phone. She was scared. Ms. Rodriguez provided us with evidence showing multiple text messages sent from your number starting at 11:47 p.m., he replied. The content shows you actively engaged with the child despite knowing about the restraining order. Rachel had screenshot our conversation selectively, making it appear that I'd been the one reaching out first. Even Emma's desperate Aunt Sarah? Its Emma had probably been edited to look like my message rather than hers. As the handcuffs clicked around my wrists, I heard Emma's voice from inside the room. Why are the police taking Aunt Sarah? Did she do something bad? Sweetie, sometimes when people are very sick in their minds, they need special help to get better. Rachel's voice drifted out, poison wrapped in maternal concern. The nice police officers are going to make sure Aunt Sarah gets the treatment she needs. Ms. Patterson appeared in the hallway, her expression grave. Officer Martinez, before you leave, I should inform you that we're opening a formal investigation into this family's dynamics. Tonight's events, combined with the existing DCF case, require additional scrutiny. A tiny spark of hope flickered in my chest. Even Rachel's perfect manipulation couldn't completely fool trained professionals forever. The booking process at Westbrook Police Station took 3 hours. By the time I was released on my own recognizance at 7:15 a.m., the damage was irreversible. The violation of the restraining order would extend it indefinitely, and I now had a criminal charge that would destroy any remaining credibility I had with DCF or family court. Patricia Hernandez met me outside the station looking exhausted. She'd been fielding calls since 4 a.m. when I'd used my one phone call to contact her answering service. Sarah, this is bad, she said without preamble. Rachel's attorney has already filed for a permanent restraining order and is demanding a psychological evaluation before any future contact with Emma is considered. They're also pushing for charges of stalking and child endangerment. Patricia, Emma called me. She was terrified. I have proof. What proof? Your phone records show outgoing messages to a number registered to Rachel Rodriguez. Without Emma's testimony that she initiated contact, it's your word against documented evidence. We sat in Patricia's car outside the police station as she explained the legal nightmare ahead. The criminal charges, the extended restraining order, and worst of all, Rachel's plan to have me declared mentally unfit, which would permanently bar me from any contact with Emma. There's something else, Patricia said grimly. I got a call from Jennifer at DCF 20 minutes ago. Based on last night's events, they're closing the abuse investigation and recommending Emma remain in Rachel's custody with supervised therapy to address the trauma you allegedly caused. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Sarah, what have you done? Rachel called crying about you being arrested at the hospital. How could you violate the court order? That poor little girl is terrified of you now. Rachel's final victory was complete. She turned my family against me, made the legal system her weapon, and convinced everyone that I was the real threat to Emma's safety. My niece would grow up believing that the person who tried to save her was actually the monster, while her true abuser collected sympathy and praise for protecting her daughter from her unstable aunt. At 9:30 a.m., as I sat in my kitchen staring at the arrest paperwork, my doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a woman in her 30s with short brown hair and kind eyes, holding an official-looking folder. Ms. Mitchell? I'm Dr. Elizabeth Warren from Westbrook Family Services. I believe we need to talk. Dr. Warren's appearance at my door sent a chill through me. This was Emma's therapist, the woman Rachel had carefully selected to document the trauma I'd supposedly inflicted on my niece. Why was she here at 9:30 a.m. on a Saturday, less than 6 hours after my arrest? I'm not sure we should be speaking directly, I said through the barely open door. Doesn't this violate some kind of professional protocol? May I come in? What I have to discuss is sensitive. Her voice was steady, professional, but there was something in her eyes that made me step aside. Dr. Warren declined my offer of coffee and sat rigidly on my couch, the folder clutched tightly in her hands. Ms. Mitchell, I need to be very careful about how I phrase this. Patient confidentiality laws limit what I can share, but there are exceptions when a child's safety is at immediate risk. My heart began racing. Is Emma okay? After the fall last night. The fall. Dr. Warren's tone was carefully neutral. Emma described that incident to me during our emergency session at 7 a.m. this morning. Her account differs significantly from what her mother reported to the hospital. I sat forward, hardly daring to breathe. What did she tell you? I can't share specifics, but I can tell you that I filed a report with DCF this morning requesting immediate intervention. She opened the folder, revealing forms I couldn't quite read from my angle. Ms. Mitchell, how well do you know the layout of your sister's house? The question seemed random. Pretty well. I've been to family gatherings there for years. Why? The staircase where Emma allegedly fell, could you describe it? I closed my eyes, picturing Rachel's pristine colonial. It's carpeted, with a wooden banister. About 14 steps from the second floor to the main hallway. There's a small table at the bottom with a lamp on it. Dr. Warren made notes. Emma told me she was going to get water from the kitchen at midnight. But the kitchen is on the same floor as her bedroom, she wouldn't need to use those stairs. The implication hit me like lightning. She was lying about where she was going. Or someone was lying about where she was going. Dr. Warren's carefully professional mask slipped slightly. Ms. Mitchell, I've been treating traumatized children for 12 years. Emma exhibits classic signs of coaching, her answers are too perfect, too rehearsed. But more concerning is what she says when she thinks I'm not paying attention. What do you mean? During art therapy yesterday, she drew a picture of herself locked in a small dark space. When I asked about it, she immediately became agitated and said she'd made a mistake, that she meant to draw something else. This morning, she was coloring and started humming a song, Mommy's mad, Emma's bad, hide away until she's glad. When she realized I was listening, she stopped and claimed she didn't know where she'd heard it. The nursery rhyme made my skin crawl. Emma had created her own coping mechanism for surviving Rachel's abuse, turning terror into a children's song. There's more, Dr. Warren continued. Emma has been asking detailed questions about mandated reporting, what happens when therapists have to tell authorities about dangerous situations. She wants to know if children ever get taken away from parents, and if people go to jail when kids tell the truth about being hurt. She's testing whether it's safe to tell you what's really happening. That's my assessment as well. Ms. Mitchell, I believe your sister selected me specifically because she researched my background. I have a reputation for being conservative in my reporting practices. She likely expected I would focus on validating her narrative about your inappropriate behavior rather than conducting genuine trauma therapy. Dr. Warren stood, straightening her jacket. Unfortunately, Rachel Rodriguez chose the wrong therapist. I was sexually abused by a family member when I was 6. I know exactly what coach testimony looks like, and I know what real trauma sounds like. She handed me a business card with a phone number written on the back in pen. This is my personal cell phone. If Emma tries to contact you again, and I suspect she will, you call me immediately. Don't respond to her directly, let me handle it through proper channels. Dr. Warren, the restraining order, my arrest last night, Rachel's made it impossible for anyone to believe me. Your sister made one crucial mistake, she said, moving toward the door. She assumed Emma was too young and too scared to tell the truth. But children are remarkably resilient, Ms. Mitchell. Sometimes they just need the right person to listen. After she left, I sat staring at her business card, hope and terror warring in my chest. For the first time in weeks, someone with professional credibility believed me. But Rachel had proven repeatedly that she was always 3 steps ahead, always ready to turn any development to her advantage. At 11:47 a.m., exactly 24 hours after Emma's desperate phone call, my phone rang. Aunt Sarah? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I think I'm ready to tell the truth. Emma's whispered words sent ice through my veins, but this time I was ready. Instead of answering directly, I hit the 3-way calling feature and dialed Dr. Warren's personal number she'd given me just 2 hours earlier. Dr. Warren speaking. It's Sarah Mitchell. Emma's on the line. She says she's ready to tell the truth. Emma, sweetheart, this is Dr. Warren. Are you somewhere safe right now? I'm in my closet with Mommy's old phone. Emma's voice was shaky but determined. She's downstairs making breakfast and talking really loud on the phone with Grandma about Aunt Sarah being arrested. She doesn't know I can hear her. Dr. Warren's voice remained calm and professional. What did you want to tell us, Emma? I didn't fall down the stairs last night. The words tumbled out in a rush. Mommy pushed me because she found me trying to call Aunt Sarah. She got really angry and grabbed my shoulders and shook me hard. Then she pushed me and I hit my head on the wall, not the stairs. My hands were shaking as I gripped the phone. Emma, are you hurt anywhere else? My shoulders have new bruises. Purple ones shaped like fingers, just like before. And Mommy told me exactly what to say to the doctors and the nice lady with short hair. Dr. Warren was taking notes. I could hear her pen moving rapidly. Emma, this is very important. Has Mommy ever told you to lie about other things? Lots of times. She practiced with me for 3 days before we went to the big building with the judge. She made me say the words over and over until I got them right. Emma's voice dropped to barely audible. She said if I didn't say them perfectly, bad things would happen to both of us. What kind of bad things? That they'd take me away from her and put me with strangers who don't love me. And that Aunt Sarah would go to jail forever because I got her in trouble with my lies. Emma started crying softly. But Dr. Warren, I think Mommy was the one telling lies. Aunt Sarah never hurt me. She was trying to help me. The sound of footsteps echoed through the phone, and Emma gasped. She's coming upstairs. I have to go. Emma, wait, Dr. Warren started, but the line went dead. I stared at my phone in panic. What do we do now? Now we act fast. Emma's testimony, recorded on this call, is enough for DCF to remove her immediately. But we need to move before Rachel realizes what just happened. Dr. Warren's voice was crisp, efficient. I'm calling emergency services and DCF right now. They can have a team at the house within an hour. At 12:23 p.m., my phone exploded with a furious call from Rachel's number. You sick, twisted bitch. Her composure had completely shattered. I know you somehow got to Emma. What did you promise her? What lies did you tell my daughter? Rachel, Don't you dare deny it. She just asked me why I lied about you being mentally ill. She wanted to know if people really go to jail for hurting children. Rachel's voice was rising to a shriek. You've poisoned her mind against me. The only thing poisoning Emma is living in fear of her own mother. I've given that child everything. I work 60-hour weeks to afford her private school, her clothes, her toys. I've sacrificed my entire life for her. The mask was completely off now. But she's just like you, ungrateful, manipulative, trying to destroy everything I built. Rachel, listen to yourself. You're talking about a 4-year-old child. I'm talking about a little traitor who doesn't understand how good she has it. Maybe some time in foster care will teach her to appreciate what she's lost. The threat was chilling, but there was desperation in Rachel's voice now. For the first time, she was reacting instead of controlling, and that meant she was scared. At 12:47 p.m., sirens echoed through my neighborhood. Emma's rescue was beginning. At 1:15 p.m., my phone rang with a call I'd been desperately waiting for. Ms. Mitchell? This is Jennifer from DCF. Emma Rodriguez is now in protective custody. We have a team with her at Westbrook General getting a full medical examination, and Dr. Warren is conducting an emergency psychological evaluation. I sank into my kitchen chair, overwhelmed with relief. Is she okay? She's scared but safe. The medical team found extensive bruising consistent with her account of last night's incident, plus older injuries that corroborate a pattern of abuse. She's been asking for you. At 2:30 p.m., Patricia called with even better news. Sarah, the district attorney is dropping all charges against you. Emma's recorded testimony this morning, combined with Dr. Warren's professional assessment, makes it clear you were trying to protect a child in danger. They're issuing an emergency court order allowing supervised visits immediately. The next few hours passed in a blur of legal proceedings and paperwork. Rachel had been arrested at 1:45 p.m. on charges of child endangerment, assault, and filing false police reports. The perfect facade she'd maintained for years crumbled in a single afternoon when faced with actual evidence and professional testimony. At 4:20 p.m., I walked into a sunny conference room at DCF where Emma sat coloring with a victim advocate named Ms. Chen. When she saw me, her face lit up with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. Aunt Sarah. Ms. Chen said you're not sick at all. Mommy told me lots of lies, didn't she? I knelt down and hugged her gently, mindful of her injuries. Yes, sweetheart. But you were very brave to tell the truth. I'm so proud of you. Will I have to see Mommy again? Dr. Warren, who'd been observing quietly in the corner, answered gently. Not until she gets help and learns better ways to treat people. You're going to stay with people who will keep you safe. Emma looked up at me hopefully. Can I stay with Aunt Sarah? The custody hearing took place 3 weeks later. Rachel, looking haggard and desperate, attempted one final manipulation by claiming postpartum depression and childhood trauma had affected her parenting. But Emma's clear, uncoached testimony about years of abuse, combined with the medical evidence and Dr. Warren's expert assessment, sealed the case. Judge Molina awarded me temporary custody with a path to permanent guardianship. Rachel was sentenced to 18 months in prison plus mandatory anger management and parenting classes, with only supervised visitation rights upon release. 6 months later, Emma and I were painting her new bedroom in my house bright yellow, her favorite color. She'd started kindergarten at Westbrook Elementary and was thriving, her nightmares finally fading. Aunt Sarah, she said, carefully adding purple polka dots to her wall. Thank you for not giving up on me when everyone said you were wrong. I set down my paintbrush and pulled her close. Emma, I will never, ever stop protecting you. That's a promise. She grinned, paint smudged on her cheek. I know. That's why I told Dr. Warren the truth. Because you taught me that people who really love you don't hurt you. My sister had tried to destroy both of us with her manipulation and abuse, but Emma's courage had saved us both. The little girl who once whispered, "Why does Mommy hurt me?" was now confident enough to say, "My Aunt Sarah loves me," to anyone who would listen. And that made every battle worth fighting.